Hi, and welcome to episode 47 of the Voices of Boyle podcast. Today's guest is Pete Higgins. So welcome to the Voices of Boyle, Pete. Great to have you on.
Great to be here, Florence. Thank you.
So we're going to focus mainly today on your music career and, of course, the songwriting and bits and pieces that you've done throughout the last few years. But to start with, we're going to take things right back to the very beginning, where Noel got a guitar when you were around 11, 12 or 13. And this is where kind of your love for music started to evolve. Can you take us back to those days?
Yeah. I was about 12 or 13. And yeah, Noel got some kind of a second-hand guitar from, I think, one of my uncles. And I don't think she ever picked it up. So it was kind of lying around the house. And Dad could play, there was one little riff that he could play. Maybe from just seeing him doing that I thought, well, I'll pick it up. And so I was the one to pick it up in the house. I can't even remember what the guitar was like now, but it's, so that would have been the first one. And I think with the music, I suppose Dad would have played. Dad has a great voice, singing voice himself, and would have sang in pubs years ago and played the spoons at kind of sessions like that. So growing up, he would have always been singing, and Mum would always be singing in the house as well. But I think when I think back about music in the house, it was probably Top of the Pops. It'd be on a Thursday night, I think, and Noel would record it, because there's obviously nothing like MTV or anything back in the day. So if you wanted to see any kind of music video after it being broadcast on TV, you'd have to record it. So we'd record it on VHS, and then we'd watch it throughout the week. And whether or not I wanted to watch it or not, we only had the one TV in the house.
You were watching it.
Yeah, so it was on. So whether I liked it or not, it just became probably just from exposure. I just, saw all these songs. And so even to this day, 80s music, I have a really fond, a real love of 80s music. I remember, even when I was in college, like, we were singing along to certain songs and people would be like, how do you know all the words? And I was like, I don't know. It's just from watching these things.
When you've listened to it, I suppose, so many times and watched it on the tape, it just stuck.
So I think that was basically, that was me when it comes to my music in my youth. That's how it started, I think. That's
how it started. So it was the guitar first, and then how did it progress from there? Obviously, you play different instruments and the songwriting too, of course.
Yeah. Well, it's mostly being guitar. Last year I started dabbling in playing keyboard at the Night and Day Festival. But up to that, it's always been guitar and singing. I think I got a guitar. I think when I first started showing an interest, Mum and Dad said, right, we'll get you a guitar, but we won't get you an expensive one. And they told me that, they said, we'll get you a cheaper one. And if you can kind of prove to us that you can, that you're interested in it, we'll get you a more expensive one. So I remember the first guitar I got, I think it's still up in the attic in Mum and Dad's house. And Matt Burke gave me a couple of lessons, which I've told him about since, and he has no recollection of. So I'm wondering, did it really happen? But yeah, he gave me a couple of lessons and he taught me a few chords. And then even I met a guy from Plunkett Avenue that we would have grown up with as well, Aidan Scanlon, a couple of weeks ago. I hadn't seen him in years. And he was telling me, I showed you a couple of chords as well. And I'm like, yeah, I'm starting to remember that he did as well. So I suppose I picked up chords, and from some skills from a lot of people. And library books as well. I remember getting a book in the library, and The House of the Rising Sun, I think, was the first song that I sat down and learned. And so I showed Mum and Dad that I could, that I had the enthusiasm to do it. And then I remember they bought me a more expensive guitar, which I think I ended up playing at the youth mass. So there was like at the time, it could have been 96 maybe. A youth mass started up in Boyle.
I remember that, a vague memory.
So it could have been the No Name Club that was kind of involved in it, possibly, for Orga or something like that. So I got involved with that. I don't know how I did. maybe I might have sang in the choir in school. Although I do remember in school, actually, when they were recruiting for the choir, they would, you go into a room and everybody would have to sing along, and then a teacher would stand beside the person to see what they're like. But I remember purposely singing badly because I didn't want to be in the choir. So I don't know if it
didn't work.
It didn't work. So they still picked me.
Your badge was still obviously good enough.
That could have been it, actually. Yeah, yeah. So maybe it was through that, because the priest then set up the youth mass, and that was great, because I remember it would have been one of the first times that I sang in public. Would have been to a packed church, St. Joseph Church.
And I suppose, what age were you then Pete, when the youth mass was on? Maybe
14, 15. And the thought of doing it now, even singing to a packed church, kind of makes me a bit shaky. But I think the thing is, it was contemporary songs that we were singing. So I sang "The Drugs Don't Work," which is strange for but that was the kind of, I suppose, a bit revolutionary, that because the priest at the time was a bit more forward thinking, and so the songs that we sang were all kind of contemporary songs, and he was very skilled that he would work the kind of narrative of the song into the sermon, and it'd be on a Saturday night. So I suppose there was a novelty of it being on, so it was really well attended.
Yeah, because it would draw people in, obviously.
Yeah, I remember it being packed, and it being dark in the church as well, because it was at night time. Must have been in the winter. So that, I suppose, that was how I kind of cut my teeth on the playing live. And then through that, I suppose I was in school with Donald Farrell, and he was starting a band, or was practicing with a couple of lads, and I think they needed a singer. Now, whether the singer was on holiday or something like that, or the person that they were going to ask, I'm not sure. But anyways, they asked me to come out and play in the band with them. And they were practicing because there was the No Name Club were putting on a band competition down in the Abbey Park. And so this was like 3 weeks before the competition. So they said, will you come out and sing? And I said, okay, I'll try it. So we went out to Shamie Gallagher. He was the rhythm guitarist. We went out to his house, and then David Malooly was playing drums. Mm-hmm. And I know that there was someone, maybe that's just drawing confusing, but there was someone that was gone on holiday, so Dave filled in for them. And he was too good to not have in the band then after that. So yeah, we practiced. I still have the audio tape of us practicing,
wow.
And the thing is, even at that age, I listen back to it, and I think we were still kind of decent, even for a couple of, the first practice, and having never even played in a band with someone. I think we were all pretty good for that age.
So that was the first time the band Bottle got together.
Yeah.
And who came up with the name Bottle, just out of interest?
I know. I remember we had to give them a name.
Yeah.
And I remember we just flicked through a dictionary and picked Bottle, and we were like, I don't know why anyone settled on that out of all the words in the English language. Well, I suppose we kind of thought, okay, Bottle, it's not a great name, but people are going to remember it.
Yeah.
We thought, like the Beatles, is it a good name, or is it the band are good? And
it stuck.
Yeah. So, we thought that, okay, it'll be memorable at least, whether people, whether the music is good or not, they might remember the name. So yeah, that was we practiced for 3 weeks, probably every day, because of during the summer, so we'd nothing else to do. And we performed then at the No Name Club competition in the Abbey Park.
And what was that like? Was there a big crowd there? Do you remember?
It was great, yeah. And again, we have footage of it, thankfully. There was a decent. There wasn't. I think we went on first, so there was about maybe 5 bands, and we certainly would have been the youngest band there. I was the oldest in the band at the time, and I was 15, and all the rest of them were 14. Or maybe one of the lads might have been 15, but I was the oldest. So, it was really, it was up in the back of one of those lorries, that we wouldn't have experienced that before, and so it was great.
Amazing experience at that age.
Yeah, we all kind of dressed up like the 1960s kind of it was almost like fancy dress we were wearing, but it was great. I mean, we were kind of living the rock and roll, lifestyle, like, and it was great. No, we didn't win, but we got a great reception, and we got our first gig from it. Like the band who won it were called Fridge, and the guy
a bottle is better than fridge.
There you go. Yeah, you're right. Actually, yeah.
So they won it, and how did you get the first gig? Did someone approach you afterwards?
Yeah, there was a guy called Betty O'Brien, who I think he might have taught my sister art years and years ago, and he owned a pub in Knockcrockery called O'Brien's, and he was there to support the band Fridge. So he saw us, and he said he offered us a gig, and I think he might have said he'd pay us like 50 quid and give us pizza as well. So we're like, great, and the thing is, again, we're 15, like we shouldn't be in pubs at all, like,
yeah.
So not, the fact that we got a gig at all is great.
So that was the first of many, Pete, because after Knockcrockery, then the band went on to play in pubs all around Ireland, and you were together, I think, for 5 years, was it?
About 5 years, yeah. Oh yeah, we played, we played up and down the country, like it was great. And it's only thinking back to it now. A lot of our success, I will put down to Donny Farrell, who would be Donald, the rhythm guitarist or the lead guitarist. His dad would be our manager, but he brought us everywhere. He drove to all the gigs. He kind of sourced an old van car thing and got it chopped in half, and we put all our gear into that, and he towed it around. So without him, we wouldn't have hardly be able to play in Boyle, to get the gear anywhere. So he was really the driving force for us to be able to kind of, I suppose, live our dream at that age. Like, it was a great way to spend our youth and our teenage years,
Amazing memories. And like such a pivotal time of life as well. So like from 15 to 20, like you would have grown so much over those years.
Yeah. So
I imagine it was like a dream to be doing this with your friends.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah. And we're all still good friends, like, and we met up there over the Christmas. And it's it's great to look back on these stories, like, and especially because I would have memories that they wouldn't remember, and then they talk about a gig to me, and I'm like, I have no recollection of that at all. So that that's it's lovely to have that, and at such a young age, to be playing, because I don't think young people, if we started now, we probably wouldn't be able to play in pubs and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's much harder, I imagine, to get a break.
Yeah,
because people just don't want to take the chance, and then rules and regulations and all that kind of stuff that have come in. Yeah. But have you any standout gig that you remember, or from those 5 years?
Well, there was one time I was talking to Dave there the other day, and I was asking him as well if there's one that he remembered. And I suppose we went to the Aran Islands for a weekend, so we got the chance to play 3 nights in a row out in the Aran Islands, and that was great. Like, because it was us young lads going away to the island for the weekend, and Donny coming as well, like, and we just had a great time, like, we just saw, and great weather, and so saw the sights during the day, and then played at night time. I think my voice went after the first night, but it didn't matter, like, it was grand. So there was that, and I suppose Rock the Lock as well, the festival that was held out in the Forest Park. That was 2002. September 2002. So I think we would have broke up a little while after that, but that was a great experience. Like, in our hometown, to have a huge festival stage, and we were on first, so it was great. We got to play through this big sound system, and then we got to enjoy the rest of the gig after that.
Yeah, you got to enjoy the rest of the music.
Yeah.
And did you play at a Christmas party at a location not too far from here in Castlereagh?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that one.
Yeah, so we played, and this is one that I always tell people as well. Yeah. We played at at a Christmas party in Castlereagh Prison, which was a very strange experience. Again, Donny got us that gig. I don't know how he got us that gig.
Where do you even look for that?
I don't know. I mean, who's asking and who's getting gigs, you know. But anyways, you know, it was very strange. Yeah, I remember going in and obviously there was a lot of, you know, security checking under the van and all that kind of stuff. So we went in and we were kind of setting up in the place where they were going to have their Christmas party. And I remember that there was like those jellies. They'd like the food set up, like we were laying into all the sweets, like while they were setting up. And then there's the one thing that I do remember from it is that I think after we'd set up, I went out to go to the toilet, and I started walking into a certain toilet, and a prisoner guard just grabbed me by the shoulder and said, "Not that toilet." So I was like, "Oh God!" And I do remember I was wearing like a sheepskin jacket, like that was the style back then. I suppose I was trying to be like the 1960s kind of style, but the prisoners were kind of slagging me. Like I could see them far away, and they were calling me like Timmy from the Famous Five, you know. And I mean, I couldn't shout back at them. I wasn't going to chance that. But it was good fun. We played the gig. I remember before the gig, we said, "Oh, wouldn't it be good if we played Jailhouse Rock?" You know, thinking not a chance. Like, but when we were playing, I remember they kept asking for that. You know, and I don't know how much awareness we would have had of like Johnny Cash playing in
I was just going
Prison.
to say, when you're talking there, all I'm thinking of is Johnny Cash and him playing in the prison.
Yeah.
Folsom Prison.
If we, you know, we didn't have much awareness of that. Because if we did, like, you know, Folsom Prison Blues would be the perfect song.
Oh,
to play.
amazing. Yeah.
But it was, you know, again, one of those things that kind of just sticks in your head.
Not everyone gets to play at a Christmas party in a prison.
No, it's such a strange.
Yeah. And did he ever, Donny obviously didn't elaborate years later on how he got the gig or.
No, I must ask him.
Yeah. It'd be an interesting one.
Yeah, because I suppose, we were, I don't know how many bands there were around that were doing a lot of gigs like that back in the day. I'm not sure if there was. So we might have been kind of known for if you need a band, we'll play, you know. So maybe that's how we got it, but it was a very strange situation.
Great experience. And then I suppose, Pete, that takes us to, obviously you played many, many nights in Boyle in probably all the pubs.
I think so.
That had music back then. Yeah. Kelly's would have been a big one. Definitely,
yeah. Rocking 'em Arms at the time. Yeah, we I remember we got a big lump of dates from the guy that was working there, that had the pub at the time, and for us it was amazing that we had not just one gig, but he gave us maybe 6 or 7 at a time, like, and it was amazing. And yeah, so I think, you know, if I was to look around the town, I'd say in some shape or form I've played in every pub.
Yeah. God, I remember Saturday nights just walking past Kelly's, and there was always such a buzz coming out of it. There was always a live band, and it was just great for the town, I think, back then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And the Moving Stairs as well. Like,
Moving Stairs, yeah.
You know, apart from us getting to play there, like, you know, the bands that I've seen there, you know, amazing bands, like,
phenomenal,
you know, amazing acts that, you know, even nowadays, if you were to hear them playing, you know, you'd be paying probably big money to see these kind of acts, like. So it was amazing to have that on our doorstep. Very lucky. And
be part of it.
Yeah.
And then, Pete, I suppose we'll move on then to 2002. So you moved to Castlebar in 2002.
Yeah. So go on, sorry.
No. And just, I just want to say you sang some lead vocals as part of the local gospel choir in Castlebar Church. How did that come about?
Yeah.
From rock to gospel.
Yeah, that was, when we moved to Castlebar, I was working at McDonald's for a while. When we first moved there, because we moved there, my now wife, my girlfriend at the time, Anya, was going to college. So we moved to Castlebar, and when she was starting college, so I started a job in McDonald's. And through, you know, it's amazing, there's a guy that I started work with there that I'm still, you know, quite close friends with. So we kind of bonded over the fact that we both hated working there, but it kept us going. So I think I worked there for, I think, a year and a half. And then I saw there was a music course, like a 1-year kind of PLC kind of style course. So I did that. And the woman who ran the gospel choir in Castlebar, Niamh O'Kelly. So she asked me to sing in the gospel choir, and I said, okay, I'll give it a go. Yeah, and through that, then we sang. It reminded me of my time singing in Boyle Church, you know. So we sang in Castlebar Church, and again, probably even bigger than Boyle Church. You know, a lot of people there. And I was singing lead, and I think it was a Hank Williams song, I Saw the Light. But it was great, you know, great experience to do.
They're big numbers.
Yeah, I was probably hugely nervous at the time, but I think and I've realised myself, I'm a kind of an extroverted introvert. You know, I like the idea of getting up and performing, but when it comes to it, like, and you kind of get a bit nervous, you think, what am I doing this to myself for? Like, it's not, I shouldn't.
And how did you cope with the nerves, or did you have any ways to kind of improve it, or did you just get up and do it?
Yeah, I think just get up and do it. Yeah, I still get nervous when I play a gig, you know, I certainly do. Maybe more so if I'm playing my own stuff rather than if I'm playing cover songs. Because, you know, it is a kind of, you feel a bit exposed, but it's what I want to be doing, you know. And I think I allow myself to be nervous, and that's okay.
Yeah, they say some nerves are good. They say that.
Yeah, it probably just keeps your brain active, but I'd be nervous, but I wouldn't be worried. You know, I wouldn't have anxiety about it. I'd just be
a few flutters in the tummy.
Yeah,
a few cold sweats.
Yeah, and the less people you're playing to, the harder it is.
Yeah, really. Okay.
Yeah, like when you're playing to, you know, if there's hundreds of people in a church, you can't see their face as such, you know. So you could almost be in your room singing, like, but you know, if you're playing songs and somebody's sitting like 5 feet away from you,
yeah,
you know,
I imagine.
Like, you start.
Because you see everything, you can see their facial expressions, and you could read into that. Then I suppose. Yeah. So bigger crowds.
That's it. Yeah.
And the course, Pete, that you did you enjoy that? The PLC, the music one.
Yeah, it was great because I got to learn to like sight read music, which I've kind of lost the ability to do now. But that was great because I had a kind of an understanding of music from playing it. But then, you know, learning about the technical side of it was great. And again, met some great friends there. One of the guys who I met there, I'm still in touch with him, and he's actually the guy that I played with at the Night and Day Festival. So, you know, I've kind of, I suppose, you know, that's Keith and Benny, like, that I've, you know, stayed in touch with all these years later, like 21 years. So yeah, it was a great course, you know, just get a wide range of things.
Great. And then 2 years later, so we skipped from 2002 to 2004, came the Canon Dogs.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the Canon Dogs consisted of myself and David Byrne, who's my first cousin as well. And, you know, I have a very strong recollection of being out in David's house, miming along to music when, you know, maybe you could have been maybe 8 years old. He's a couple of years older than me. Miming along to music, kind of playing, you know, pretending to play electric guitar and stuff like that. So I would have been out because my grandparents would have lived out in the Warren, and they're David's grandparents too, and he lived quite close to them. So, you know, we'd always be out kind of hanging around with each other. And I remember that we'd always say we must get together and play some music. And I don't know if we even played too many times at parties or anything like that. And it was Paul Purcell's 21st birthday that Paul must have asked. He must have got some inkling that we were kind of looking to do something, and he asked, "Will we do it?" Or maybe he asked Jock if we'd consider it, like, and we did. We finally got together and started practicing, and it was great, you know, because when it comes to our taste in music, we have kind of polar opposite taste in music, apart from the Beatles. And that's what we kind of bonded over.
I was going to say, did that bring you together then?
That was the band that brought us together. And through that then, you know, we'd find commonalities. But I mean, you know, there's music that I would listen to that I would say, you know, that Dave wouldn't consider turning on at all. And the same might be true for him. But so that was great that we bonded over that. And, you know, both of us were singers, both of us guitar players. So, you know, the harmonizing was great. And, you know, maybe it's something to do with the fact that we're related as well, that the harmonies fit really well, you know. And it was always, I remember with that band, it was always effortless in that, you know, we'd very easily learn a song and it wouldn't take us long to work out the harmonies or the, who does what when it comes to the guitars. And so it was just a very easy band to play in, and we play, we were together maybe coming up on 10 years.
Wow, that's quite a long time.
A long time. Yeah. And again, we play, mostly in the West, but we did an awful lot of traveling, and had great times. And yeah, just, I would miss that. The thing I miss about the Canon Dogs certainly is harmonizing. Because if you're singing on your own, if you're recording, you can harmonize with yourself. But, it's nothing like harmonizing with someone in real life, So, maybe one day Canon Dogs will. We had a couple of comeback gigs, like we broke up and then it's like, right, we're never doing it again. And then 2 years later, we'll be like, right, come on.
Well, who knows? There might be a comeback.
Oh, I'm sure there will.
Down the line.
Yeah. Yeah, there will be, but just whenever that is. But yeah.
Great. Well, look, when it comes easy like that, I'm sure it doesn't take too much persuasion to get the guitars back out and get together again.
Yeah, certainly.
So that's the Canon Dogs then, Pete. And then in 2006, moved to Galway.
Yeah.
And this kind of opened a new chapter then for you. So you started a film and TV course in GMIT. You specialised in documentary and editing. And in your final year, which most people in town will know, you made a short documentary about the connection between UFOs and our town of Boyle. It was chosen to be screened on RT2 as part of their new director's strand of programmes. And you had loads of additional footage, which was shot, and the longer version of the documentary was broadcast in March 2010. So talk to us a little bit about the course and why you started that, and obviously what led you to create the documentary about Boyle and UFOs.
I don't know where the genesis of wanting to do that course came from. I think to me it was when The Lord of the Rings came out, and watching that in the cinema. I'd always enjoyed film and TV and stuff like that, but I think when I saw that, and then I remember buying the DVD, and back then the special features would be on a DVD, and there was loads of extra discs, and it brought you through every aspect of the filmmaking process. And that film in particular used so many clever, filmmaking techniques that it really just, it really spoke to me, and it's like, I think I want to do something like that. But I wasn't sure how I would do something like that. But then I must have done some research and saw that there was a course in Galway. I went in as a mature student, so I had to do an interview, and you had to have a portfolio. But I'd no film, filming done at all. But I had a kind of a portfolio of photographs. So I think for my 21st, I think Anya got me a digital camera. And so I'd always been taking photos with that. So I had a real, love of photography. So, thankfully that stood to me in that my portfolio was basically just photographs. And, they obviously saw something in that translated over to film and TV. So yeah, I got that course. We moved to Galway. And that was a great course because I hadn't been to college before. So I was 26 going to college. And I think I was on the right age to enjoy the party side of college, but also mature enough to, put my head down and do the course,
Get what you want while you're there. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember when I left school, I didn't want to do a course. There was nothing I wanted to do when I left, when I did my leaving cert. I was probably thinking, bottle would be the way forward. But, when it comes to academic wise, there's nothing I wanted to do. And I thought, looking back now, a very mature thing of me to think that, if I go to college now, just for the sake of it, I feel like I'm taking someone else's place, So when I finally did go to college, I really, I valued that place that I had, and I worked really hard, and partied hard as well. It was great, living in the centre of Galway City, So yeah, so that course was great. I mean, we got, a very wide range of skills in all different departments of filmmaking. and met some great friends there as well. So in the third year, you had to specialise, and I specialised in editing and documentary. And as part of the final year project, 3 documentaries would be made and 3 films would be made. So 3 ideas for each documentary and film. And I wasn't going to pitch anything. I was kind of happy to maybe be an editor or, help in whatever other way I could. But it must have been, somebody must have said it to me that, if I'd be saying to someone, at a party or when we're out, where are you from? From Boyle. And somebody said, oh, that's like UFOs, yeah. And I'm like, well, yeah, I suppose. Didn't know much about it myself, And so the more people that said that to me, I was like, okay, well, there's got to be something here. And I decided I'd pitched the documentary idea to the lecturers, and they all went for it.
They probably loved it.
Yeah, because maybe I was too close to it, kind of thinking it was a bit kooky or something.
Yeah.
But then you think, well, no, that's what documentaries should be. They should be about something that's out of the norm. So yeah, we pitched that, and thankfully they picked it. So there's a lot of work involved, and the main thing would be that we would interview Betty Meyler.
Yes. Who,
a lovely woman. I hadn't really met her before the documentary got going. So I remember coming down, and she lives so close to where we are now. I didn't realise how close you were to her. I remember trying to find the house on the day, and we went out to Ballymote, me and Dad.
You did not.
We didn't have a clue where the place was.
I suppose there was no air codes back then.
No, there must have been Google Maps, but we didn't have a clue. But eventually we found her house anyways. So I went in and chatted to her, and she was lovely. She was really on for the idea of, because I knew she had made stuff like this before.
She was a real professional.
Yeah.
I'd say Peachy didn't have much work to do with her in terms of the information and delivering the information that she had.
Oh yeah, she had so much.
She was good.
Encyclopedia of knowledge. I was just concerned that to get across the way that I wanted to make the documentary. So I was going into it kind of. I certainly wasn't taking a cynical look at it. But, I had grown up in Boyle, and I'd never seen any kind of UFOs or any activity. I'd heard about, things happening, but I'd never seen them. So I was going back, it was me going back to my hometown, investigating, why I hadn't seen anything. And so, I was honest about Betty that's the documentary I wanted to make. And she was very open to that. She knew I wasn't trying to take advantage of her belief in UFOs. Because I was open-minded. So yeah, we talked to her, and she was great. We went down with the rest of the crew, kind of did a recce, and she was all on for it. And she even then, we thought we might get her out on the boats. But she just had her knees done at that time, and I thought I better not ask. But I think she suggested it, that she go out on the boats. I was like, great. But even going out on the boats, going back then to college and saying we want to go out on a boat, and they're like, insurance wise, a couple of students and cameras out on boats, but they were very supportive, and we got budget wise as well. We had very small budgets.
So there was yourself, you had a cameraman and a sound guy, did you?
Yeah, and a producer. So there was three of us, 4 in total, and we stayed in the Royal Hotel.
Did you?
Yeah, well they did.
Brilliant.
Some of the documentary was shot in there, but I mean it was so ancient. It had the old kind of Bakelite telecom air and phones in it at the time.
So I'd say that added to it nearly.
It did, yeah. It gave us a strange kind of a look, but it's so yeah. The documentary then, when it came to filming it was great. We came down maybe 3 days of filming, possibly, and it was great. We went to a few places with Betty, interviewed her, and she was so nice. Went out on the boats. There's a scene where she's out on the boats, and she's trying to find a portal. She said there was a portal on the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And I've watched this with people, and a lot of people laugh because the idea, it's a very outlandish idea to think there's a portal out there in the lake. But for me, I wanted to get her story across as well. She believed it. Whether or not I believed it at the time was neither here nor there. She believed it and very strongly believed it. And I thought that was fascinating. She wasn't the kind of person that, I suppose when you think maybe about people that are into UFOs, you might kind of think the kind of tinfoil hat maybe wild conspiracy theories. She was very aware of the fact that this was a very strange belief to have. And she says, there's people that don't believe in it. That's fine. I do. I believe in what I believe in.
She was extremely intelligent.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, so she was great. And, without her, there wouldn't have been a documentary.
And were you happy, Pete, with how it turned out?
Yeah. It was great. We did some vox pops outside Super Value, where basically I go up and I just kind of doorstep someone and say, could you talk to me on camera for a second? Have you seen any UFOs around Boyle? And, there's people, I was saying before, if they see someone with a microphone and a camera, first of all, outside Super Value, people are going to get freaked out and going to think, I'm not going to talk to him. So there was people that did talk, and, there was people that have, a few smart comments, but that was okay as well, because that, it wasn't insulting. It was just a kind of maybe a smart comment. And some people genuinely said, no, I haven't seen anything.
And did you get a balance? Did you get some people that said they have seen stuff and some people that said they haven't?
Yeah. A couple of people said that they had, which I didn't expect that anyone would, say that. But yeah, it was good fun, and we got a great reception. When it was shown at the Galway Film Fleadh the year it was the year it was released. Like, I remember that being shown in the town hall theatre. I remember it came on, and it was my first experience of showing my work on a screen like that. And that was kind of akin to what you were saying before about the nervousness. Like, I felt that nerves again, like, because I think from a technical point of view, I was just thinking, just let it play okay. And, however about how it's received. But I remember it started and the picture came up and there was no sound. And I was like, oh no, this is my worst nightmare.
Oh no.
And it just kept going. And I was like, please turn it off. They're like, start it again. So the lights, it went off, house lights went up. And like, my family was with me, friends and stuff. And then lights went down again and it came on again. And there was sound this time, but no picture.
Oh, stop.
And I was like, this can't be happening.
Stop.
Like, this is, I must be dreaming. Like, this.
Get
this
me
is
that
horrible.
person.
Yeah. And then, okay, the third time it did work, thankfully. And, watching something with an audience is like a live performance, because, people are watching it for the very first time and having their very own, initial reactions. I think the thing I found strange about, in any time if my work has been shown to a live audience, is the places where people laugh. They laugh at the most inappropriate time, or, but that's real. It's their real reaction. Like, but, it plays in a way that you could never, when you're editing or making a film or a TV show, you have to put yourself in the mind of the viewer. Like, this is how they're going to react now, or how you hope they'll react. But then when you actually see how they react, it's totally different, and that's nice. It's a bit strange at times, but so yeah, it was good. That was our final year project, and it was very lucky to be able to do it and come back to Boyle. And I think we kind of mentioned it earlier that coming back to Boyle gave me a huge appreciation of the town I was from. So we'd lived away from Boyle at that stage for maybe 8 years, and you just, when you're in a small town growing up, you want to get out and kind of, be other places. But certainly then when you come back to it, you really, really appreciate it. You see it with completely fresh eyes, like, then, then seeing it through the lens as well, like, you see it through even fresher eyes again. So, I think that really increased my, my love for the town.
To see it even on the screen is amazing, isn't it? And since then, I suppose yours probably would have been one of the first that Boyle actually was on the big screen. And then since then, we've had loads of Moon Boy, obviously, Dark Lies the Island, Anne, and then the recent one, Big Town, I think the one that Chris did recently. So Boyle has got some exposure in the last few years through film and documentary, and it's great. It's
lovely for such a small it reminds me of when you hear about people talking about Ireland on the international stage, and you really, when you compare the size of Ireland to North America, say, it pales in comparison. So that when you hear people from things about Ireland coming out. It's great to see that. And I kind of, I see that almost like Boyle as well, that no matter what you're listening to, Boyle comes up a lot, and it's a tiny town in the west of Ireland, and it does again and again, it crops up in things.
It does. And it's amazing, no matter where you go in Ireland and you say, where you're from or whatever, if you say Boyle, like 90% of people will know where it is.
Yeah.
It's crazy for a small town. Yeah, I noticed that. Because like Carly would be like, where are you saying Boyle for? I'll just say Roscommon. And it just automatically comes Boyle. And they're like, oh, that's in Roscommon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're quite well known.
Yes. I don't even think Roscommon. I just think Boyle.
Yeah. So that was really interesting, Pete, and like to be able to actually shoot and edit it is an amazing achievement to do both sides of it.
No, I didn't edit it. Katrina Nicoulon edited the thing, which again was tough for me to step back from.
Right. So you handed over all the footage.
Yeah.
Right.
So I would have kind of done a lot of the planning and written a script as such. But I would have sat in with her. But that was an experience in itself to kind of say, because it is better for someone else to edit your footage, because there's a thing in college that used to talk about that, because if you were there on the day, you saw everything around the camera, whereas when the editor gets it back, all they have is what was filmed on the day. They don't know who was standing to the side, what happened before or after. So they've got a completely different view of it, and that's the way it should be. So she edited, and she did a great job, and a better job that I could have done myself. I wouldn't have been able to, because you'd be too self-conscious. Because it's a strange documentary that, putting myself into the documentary and putting myself in front of camera was a kind of a strange choice. But I thought that was probably the only way that I could do it, because I've tried to take people on a journey as such in the little space of time we had.
And what was the running time in the end?
It was maybe like 18 minutes. But then my lecturer, Donal Haughey, who would have lectured me in documentary, he put it forward to RTE they were doing like a strand of programming called New Directors on RTE 1 or 2, I can't remember. So he put that forward to them and kind of said, look, because a broadcast half hour is 25 minutes long. So he said, look, this is 18 minutes long. If you want it, give us some money and we'll film the extra, whatever it is, 7 minutes. And they gave us money to do it.
Wow.
It was great. That was amazing. Like that. And again, in the same way with Donny, but going back to the bottle, like, another Donal Haughey, he was really, I was really fortunate to have him as a lecturer, because he was a very passionate man. Like he could, the kind of guy that he'd rub you up the wrong way, but if you liked him, you liked him. If you didn't, you really didn't,
Right.
And I liked him, and he liked me, so that was,
it
that worked out well. So he put it forward to that, and so we got some money. It wasn't much money, but it was enough to kind of go back and shoot. And it was perfect because the UFO, Betty was running the UFO convention, the Irish UFO convention in King House. So it lined up perfectly. So we went back and we filmed that, and we got some interviews with people, these top ufologists from all over the world that came to King House, and, we got to interview them. So it worked out, You
couldn't have got a better time,
it worked
really.
out perfectly, yeah. And so, put that stuff together then, and so a lot of the money was to do the kind of post-production. Once we filmed the stuff, we brought it to a post-production house in Spiddle, Telligale, which is where I ended up working.
Mm-hmm.
And we got, so that was shown on RTE, and that was another layer of performance, I suppose, that, watching stuff back live with people, but then thinking about it going out across the country, and worrying about something, something going wrong in that. And then there was press, there was, I did interviews on, with Tom Dunn on News Talk and RT Radio, and, it would have been in the newspapers and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of opening myself up to another layer of criticism. And I think it did mostly, people saw what I was trying to get across. There was one, they showed it at the UFO convention, that Baz You know, the guy.
Oh,
Baz
Baz.
Ashram,
Yes, yeah.
He had done something similar, but his tone was quite different. Like, you know, he was kind of taking the piss a bit, which again, Betty would have been fully aware that what he was doing. You know, so I wouldn't have seen him. I wouldn't have said he was taking advantage of her. She would have known, and I think she probably would have thought that any publicity is good publicity.
She really did.
Yeah,
that was her thing.
And so that went out, and you know, I think it was on like the Republic of Telly, which, you know, it was a show which they used to kind of rip the piss out of shows during the week, and they kind of they featured UFO and kind of made a few jokes about it, and I thought that was great. Like, you know, it was kind of lovely to be teased on that, but that was great.
Great, yeah. Well, Betty always had the last laugh, as you said. Even if people thought they were taking the piss of her, she knew fine well what was going on.
Yeah.
So, Pete, you mentioned there Telly Gale. So quickly, yeah, they're based in Spittal, County Galway.
Yeah.
So that took up a good few years then. You'd worked on cartoons for broadcasters, including Sky, Netflix, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network. So tell us a little bit about that. What was that like?
Yeah, it's been great. I started there in 2011, or maybe 2010, and I got the job through Donald Haughey, the guy who my documentary lecturer. Yeah. When it came to getting UFO to broadcast quality, it was cheaper for me to go in and kind of digitize all the tapes. It was mini DV back in the day, so you'd have to digitize all the tapes, and we wouldn't have been able to afford that in the budget. So we said, right, I'll go in and do that. And I think by going in and doing that, I did a good job, and my boss in there, who was my boss now, I think he saw that, you know, I was capable. And then I did some work experience there for a couple of weeks, but there wasn't much for me to do there at the time. So I think I just got footage. I think I made a documentary out of some footage that I had. And again, it's probably showed that I was, you know, serious about what I was doing. And then the opportunity came up to have a job in there, and my boss must have asked Donald if he could recommend anyone, and he said that, you know, that I might be up for it. And so I started there, and it was great. So at the start, I wasn't doing any editing. It was duplication of tapes, which I feel like I'm showing my age now. They're kind of digital tapes back in 2010, where like one episode of a show might have like 40 tapes to go to different broadcasters, and you'd have to copy them and watch them being copied. So I'd be starting at 2 and finishing at 2, and you know, and then working for 7 days on, 7 days off. So it was grand. I was in that world, you know, and I was happy to be in that world, but I wasn't doing any editing. And then the opportunity came up to go into full-time editing. You know, a position opened up, and I jumped at that. It was great. So since then, yeah, I've been, you know, as you were saying, I work on animation cartoons that will get sent to us, and, you know, the audio department will do the audio mix, and we'll quality check all the picture and then send it off to the broadcaster. So there's that side of editing, which I suppose is the technical side of editing, rather than the creative side. But thankfully, I get to kind of flex the creative muscle when it comes to documentaries in there. So I've worked on, my first one, I think, for broadcast was the Myrtle Allen documentary. She's a Ballymaloe, kind of Rachel Allen's mother-in-law. So that was a great doc. That was a 1 hour documentary to work on. It was great. And then since then, I've worked on a few Never Maguire shows, the kind of Portuguese series and Greenways series. And that's good fun. It's, you know, it's the creative side again, to just give me a heap of footage and put it all together. So, you know, I enjoy that side. And then the longer form ones was the Great Lighthouses of Ireland, which was so I worked on the first series. There was another editor that had maybe done like 1.5 episodes, and then it came to me. So it didn't work out with that guy, some kind of schedule things, and so I took that one over, and that's probably the hardest one that I've done so far, because there was just so much footage. It was 4 1 hour shows, which I think people might think that an hour show, how long can that take?
I can't
to edit?
even imagine.
I mean, unbelievable.
How many hours of footage would you say?
I don't know. I remember. So when it comes to they did a series 2, and then I was the sole editor on that. And the numbers wise, I remember there was 72 hours of interview alone.
Oh my God.
So, there's an awful lot to get through. But as I get, I'm at it a long time now, and with the experience that I have, and when it comes to music as well, just use my gut when it comes to things, and just, you're looking through an interview and you're kind of thinking the director is he's very fair and kind of trusts me, and we have a trust between each other, and that he kind of gives me the footage and lets me find the story within it. He's asked all the questions, and then it's up to me then to weave that into a story, which is a great way to be, because he's not breathing down my neck the whole time. And so it's a nice working relationship. But yeah, 72 hours.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and then you might be just using snippets, but you just have to go. You have to go through it. There's no shortcut to doing it.
I'd imagine when you finish, it's such a breath of fresh air.
It's great. Yeah, it's lovely. Because for 4 hours, even when you finish a program, just even sit back and watch that again. An hour is a long time to go back and review footage. So it takes a long time. And that blank page at the start, it's the same if you're doing an essay, or you just think you have all these interviews and all these different sections, and you've nothing edited, and it takes me a long time to kind of do it, and I know that once I do it, I'll be fine. I was like that in college as well, that if I'd had an essay due, I'd look forward to say, okay, it's due for next Monday, and I said, I'd have difficulty starting it, but I'd think to myself, I know by next Monday it'll be done. I don't know how it'll get, but between now and then it will get done. So that kind of spurred me on to be a bit more relaxed, and then I get going on it. And I'm like that with editing as well. And sometimes it's hard to go from the more mechanical side of editing to switch off that side of your brain and go into creative mode and trying to come up with a story and stuff like that. So we're in the early days now of starting a documentary to do with kind of the OPW, the Office of Public Works, and all the buildings and premises that they take care of around the country. So that's getting back into that.
So are you involved in shooting that, Pete, or will you be involved in the process afterwards?
No, just editing.
Yeah.
But it's the kind of thing that now, as time goes, as we're filming it, I can make suggestions as to maybe this story needs this person, or that kind of thing, and that's a nice kind of input.
And will they be coming to Boyle, do you think? I
don't know. I don't know what it'll be, because certainly the Abbey is there. So it'll be great. I know in Lighthouses, I got a shot of the Forest Park into it, which
you did well.
Yeah, to get landlocked Roscommon into a program about lighthouses is a tough going, but I kind of put it in there. It was about how people travel by boats in early 1900s, and I kind of stuck it in there thinking he's probably going to say, "Where's that?" The director's going to say, "Take that one out," but he just left it in, and I was like, "Great," Brilliant. So it was a shot of the fishing temple out there, so it was nice to
include it. Brilliant. You did well, considering it's about lighthouses.
Yeah.
So I suppose that will finish that chapter of your life, I suppose, and we'll jump back into the music. So in 2013 you began playing solo gigs, focus on songs from the 50s and 60s. So again, bit different.
Yeah.
So what brought you there?
I think that with the Canon Dogs, we'd started doing that. We thought it'd be better to specialise in something rather than be kind of a jack of all trades. Because a lot of bands do that. They'll play songs from the 50s all the way up to modern stuff. And I felt that that's always where our strongest, we were strongest at doing that kind of stuff, the 50s and 60s. So after the Canon Dogs disbanded, I started doing some solo gigs, and I thought, I'll specialise in that. I may not get as many gigs because I don't do a bit of everything, but I think I was more comfortable doing the 50s and 60s stuff anyways. And so, yeah, I played right up until COVID hit. I was playing pretty regularly, and it very enjoyable. Like, for me, it was never hard work. Certainly, it was always to be able to go out as like just enjoying your hobby, get out and play guitar for a couple of hours. I used to play regularly up in the Western Bar on Prospect Hill in Galway. I played there for about 10 years, like every Saturday, and that was great. It was lovely to get to know everybody up there, and and it was lovely. There'd always be the people that would be thinking, how does this guy know that kind of music? Because it is, it's a long time ago. That stuff, the 50s, like, you're talking 50, 60 years more. But for me, it's the thing. People would even say to me, how do you know that kind of music? But for me, I grew up listening to that music. So, when we were in Bottle, we were listening to the likes of Led Zeppelin and the Doors, and the Beatles, as if they were just out, as if they were, as if they were in the charts.
Yeah.
Because we were discovering them as, one of us might have this album. It was before streaming as well, so it's a little bit more difficult to get your hands on music. So that was the kind of music of my childhood. And so, and I've always kept, a huge fondness for that music, and I'm always finding new stuff from that period that you've never heard before, and it's always great. Like, so yeah, so I specialised in that.
And that led you then, Pete, to do your first solo album.
Yeah.
You released that in 2018.
2018. Yeah. I mean, it was one of those things that.
Had it been on your mind for a long time?
Yeah, I feel like I should have. Like with Bottle, we released a couple of CDs. Well, we released one. We recorded a second one, but never got a chance to release it. But I'd always been writing music, throughout the years. Living in Castlebar, like even doing the music course, I would have been writing a lot, but never recording. Didn't have the right equipment. I had a tape 4-track that Anya bought me years ago for, I think, my son's birthday. Like, and that's I loved having that. I still have it in the office. Like, so you record onto tape, and it was really what you were doing. You're recording with the same equipment that the likes of the Beatles would have had. Even though it was very cheap, back when I bought it, but it would have been the height of technology years and years ago. So, you record maybe 4 tracks, and then if you wanted more, you had to kind of combine those tracks onto another track, and then you could never adjust those tracks again. So there's a real kind of you had to make that decision.
It was really final, wasn't it?
Yeah. Which adds to it makes you very disciplined, but it kind of, but the thing I had was you would never release what you record, and it wasn't good enough to release the quality of it. So by the time, I'd say in 2018, then I'd had the kind of right software that I could, record, stuff. Technology had got better, equipment had got cheaper, so I could record my own stuff. I could mix it and master it myself. And I remember I was working on it, and then Anya was pregnant with our first child, and I said, right, by the time the child is born, I'll have this finished and done, because I have no time the rest of my life to do this. So I got it finished just a little bit after. So Arlo was born in December, and I think I released it in March. And it was great. I mean, again, got great response from people. It's a strange thing you really lay yourself bare by putting stuff out there, putting, the stuff that you created out there. But I'd rather have it out there and have it, ripped apart than not do it, because it's the kind of thing that I feel like I have to do. It's part of my life, kind of creating, whether it comes to being creative in my job or, writing music. It's something that I kind of have to do. Yeah. So we released that. I released it in March 2018. And then my sister was working in the Coleman Centre in Gertrude at the time. And she must have said it to the guy who ran the place. And he said, well, maybe he'd do the launch of the album here. And I wasn't even thinking, playing it live.
Yeah.
Because I played all the instruments on the CD, so I'd never played it. Yeah, literally couldn't, even if I wanted to. So I thought, okay, leave it with me for a while and see what I can do. And so I said to Dave Byrne, I said, would you be up for it? And he was straight away, because he was always on to us for the Canon Dogs to do original stuff, but it never really worked out. So he said, yeah, he'd do it. I talked to Dave Malooly, the drummer of Bottle. He said, yeah, I'll do it. And then we got Brendan Maloney from Boyle as well. He played bass. So we played that out in the Coleman Centre. Played most of the songs from the album. And for me, if no one had been there, it would have been one of the best nights of my life, because I was hearing this music that was all in the computer, in the box, hearing it come to life. It was amazing. And it was really well attended. It was great. Really one of those nights that I'll always remember. And so that was great, yeah. And so then I thought, because after having our first child, I'll never have time to do music again. But
But then then came number two.
Number two,
not child. We're talking about the album.
Well, actually, a bit of both. It was I think for so long I hadn't recorded, but it is like it's a kind of a muscle that once you start doing it, you know how to do it, and it's like it's so much easier. And that thing I was talking about, using your gut, you start making decisions a lot quicker, and it's not as much of a slog to get a song together. So yeah, in 2019.
Which was only a year later, which is nothing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, when I think it's weird now. So yeah, I released the second album was Adrift in a Sea of Apathy, that I released in 2019. And while doing the gigs for that, so we did one out, and we kind of scaled it back. It was just me and Jack. It was the Canon Dogs, basically. We played out in the Coleman Centre. And then we played as for the Boyle Arts Festival, we played up in the upstairs of the Moving Stairs. So that was lovely to do as well, because that was a different, rather than doing the live band thing. It was lovely to kind of just focus on me and Dave playing guitars and harmonies. But yeah, Anya was pregnant at that time as well, so it was baby two.
So both came together.
Yeah.
So was she pregnant when you were writing the album, or was it afterwards when you released?
So when I released it, she was. Let me see. She'd maybe 3 or 4 months pregnant, I think. Yeah. Okay.
So that one finished on time.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though the first one wasn't bad, now 3 months later.
I know,
considering.
I don't know where I found the time.
So then, Pete, that takes us to 2020. So 2018, obviously, album number 1. 2019, album number 2, and then 2020, you made the return to Boyle.
Yeah. So once COVID hit, we were working from home, and I remember when we myself and my mate Ronnie, we were driving to work into Telegale, and I think he had just had his first child as well, and we were thinking, that wouldn't be great to be able to spend more time with the kids, but it's just the way it is. This we're going out when we're working, and we just don't have that opportunity. And so, getting to work from home was, it was an amazing opportunity. Because Pearl was just about 4 months old when lockdown happened. So it was great to spend that time. And, it was kind of a nervous time, obviously, kind of an anxious time, but in our own little bubble, it was great, and then I kind of said it to, I think Anya mentioned, one of our friends was doing it. They said, we're going to move. They were living in Galway. They had kids. They said, we're going to move back to our home place, because why not? And closer to family. So then Anya mentioned it, and I was like, I think at first I was like, no, I don't think so. I'm moving from Galway City. But, and I remember my nephew, Cale, saying, your kid's going to hate you when you grow up, move from Galway City. But, we were out in the suburbs in Knocknacarra, and you could be anywhere then, you know what I mean? And you didn't know anybody, and it's that kind of modern living where you don't have a community there, and it's difficult. So the thought of coming back to Boyle and being closer to our parents, you know, and for our kids to be closer to their parents, you know, it was a decision that we thought was best for everyone. So yeah, I moved back in September 2020. And it's
Probably a shock at the beginning, simply because the times we were in, like the town was just,
yeah.
But you expected that obviously when you were,
yeah.
So you're loving it. You're loving it since, Pete.
Yeah,
it's come back to life.
Like, you know, for to see Arlo now, going to the same school that me and Anya went to, you know, it's lovely to see that. Like, and you know, when we get back to Boyle, we had this built-in community. And like I said before, whatever about when I was doing UFO, coming back, having appreciation, you know, as I've got older, even more so now coming back, you know, and kind of, you know, being in that community and kind of, you know, trying to take part in that community, and watching your kids grow up in the same town that you grew up in. You know, it's lovely. Like it's you know, it's a joy. We're very lucky to be able to do it.
We are, yeah. And I think that's the one thing that is great that Boyle does have, is the community spirit. And so many great things for kids, so many clubs, so many activities, keep them busy, and yeah, it's great. And recently then, one of the big things that has taken off in Boyle lately has been the folk club. And you got to play at that. Yeah. Donny set that up, I think. Yeah.
It was Donny. I listened to his chat with you. It was great. And I don't, you know, Donny's such a lovely guy, so sincere. And he asked me, December 2022. So he texted me and says, you know, about the folk club, and I'd seen it maybe advertised, but it wasn't really on my radar, so I hadn't been to it yet. And then he said, would you play a gig at the folk club? And I was like, yeah, I will. Yeah. I said, this is December 22. And he said, it's for December 2023. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, if I'm still alive, I'll do it. And so then I started going to the folk club, and it's been great. I've been to nearly every one of them since, and it's a lovely, even talking about that community thing, you know, it's a lot of times it's the same people, and you'll see new faces every month, but it's, you know, it's a lovely community spirit. And I've seen some amazing musicians up there, you know, and so you get to see more professional ones. Then there's people that just sing, you know, that if you just want to sing a song, you can stand up and sing a song. And it's been great. Like, so I would have gone up and played a couple of songs from the floor, and you know, that was lovely to do that. And then I got the opportunity to play the kind of full gig last December, which was lovely. You know, nerve-wracking again, because as I was saying, the people
Dodge
5 feet,
as well, yeah.
You know, that nobody is more than 10 foot away from you, you know. And you know, the kind of vibe of the night is that everyone is so respectful. Like, there's no talking whatsoever when the music is playing. Now, I know to some people that's like, oh, get me out of here. But you know, I feel it's the most respectful thing to do. It's different if you're playing a covers gig in a pub. Like, chat away. I'll be background music if you want it. I don't mind at all. When you're playing music that, you know, means a lot to you, it's lovely to have people respect that. And, you know, even though they've never heard it before, they're engaged, and that, you know, that really makes things more special. But it also makes it more nerve-wracking, you know, because
you could hear a pin drop.
You can hear a pin drop. You can hear every single mistake. And the week before it, Anya had a bad sore throat. Pearl had a sore throat. I think Arlo was kind of getting a bit snotty, and so I was trying to respectfully keep my distance, kind of thinking, just, you know, because I thought winter, whatever about the summer, but the winter months, like especially with the kids, then there's always some kind of snotty nose, and I thought, oh, I'm just gonna have a sore throat like that night of all nights, you know, especially when you wait a year to do it.
Yeah, but
it was okay. I was drinking you know, hot lemon and honey and dosing it into me, so it was all right on the night. But it was lovely.
Great.
Yeah.
Great opportunity.
Oh yeah.
And then another musical event then last year, you played at the Night and Day Festival.
Yeah.
And you're planning on playing again this year at it.
Yeah, so that came about because one of the lads that I did the music course in Castlebar with, in 2002.
See how them connections still
Isn't it amazing?
are still
yeah,
there.
Yeah. And even apart from that, the other guy that I started in McDonald's with, I'm producing music for him now as well. So, I mean, that the fact that I'm still, musically linked to those two lads, it's amazing. Like, so yeah, Keith Delaney he lives in Ballyhonus. He has a band called The Aftermath, and they got a gig in the Night and Day Festival, and they said their keyboard player couldn't do the gig. So Keith said, "Will you play a keyboard?" And I said, "Keith, I don't play keyboard." And he said, "Go on, you play keyboard." I was like, so I thought about it. I was like, all right. He gave me about 3 months notice, and he had all the songs, like I could learn from him. He had all the keyboard bits kind of laid out. But, I play keyboard, say when I'm writing my own music, I can play a bit, but if I make a mistake, it's fine. I could just go back and change it. But I've never played live, in front of anybody playing the keyboard. So I said I'd do it. And I think it was one of those kind of things that just to put myself out of my comfort zone and try it. And again, thinking that, like the essay or the documentary, that, 3 months beforehand, getting nervous about it, but then thinking, if I'm going to do it, I know that on the day I'll have learned it. It'll be okay, So I just needed to get myself to that point. And it did. It went great. Like, it was a lovely experience, and I'm back again this year
with the same band.
Same band, yeah.
Same keyboard.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I have those kind of those things that go on top of the keyboard that tells you all the notes, that children use, but I have to use it. Yeah, but I think I when I was playing there, I probably am the only person that's played at the Rock the Lock Festival and the Night and Day Festival. So there might be someone else out there that has done it as well, but I think I feel like I might be the only one.
You might be able to claim that one. I
think. So it's a nice way to, it's nice to look back, over my kind of musical career as such, and see how far I've come, I suppose. Yeah.
Fantastic, Pete. Well, I think we'll wrap it up at that. But before we want to go, I just want to ask, have you any advice for anybody that is aspiring to get into music or songwriting or even the film and editing? I suppose being creative and probably getting out there and kind of getting into that line of work. Would you have any advice?
I suppose with the filming and editing kind of side of things is to just make stuff, make as much as you can. And what I probably learned the hard way at the start of college is that whatever you make doesn't have to be a masterpiece. It can be terrible. It should be terrible, because you need to learn by making mistakes. So go out and make as much stuff as you can, and edit as much stuff as you can. It'll always come in handy, and if it comes to showing someone your work, you never know where you might use it down the line. So I would say just make as much stuff as possible. Music wise, I see now my nephew Dara, he's playing guitar quite a long time now, and he's really getting into it. Like, and it's lovely to see his enthusiasm, and it puts me back to that's the age I was when I started playing, and I can see his enthusiasm. I can identify with that. He just wants to play. Like, whenever I played in Creighton's there for a couple of nights, and he got up and played with me, and that, there's a lovely moment to be able to play music with my nephew. Like, and he's really good as well. It's not just because he's my nephew I'm saying that. He's really good. And so I think that's it. It's just to just keep writing and keep as many opportunities as you can to play in public. Do it, because it's the first time you do it is not going to be your best time, and so you just got to keep doing it and honing your craft, and just keep writing, because I can still remember the songs that I wrote when I was younger. So there must have been something good in that they're catchy, but they're not good songs, but you have to kind of clear those out, And, there's times where at the time you might think they're amazing and come back to, but that's okay as well, because it's, as long as what you're creating at the time, that you're getting that buzz off it, that's all that matters. For me, that's all that matters. It's like, I'm writing songs now for a third album, which, going by the gap between the first and second, this third one is quite a lot longer. we have a third child since then, so this has to be the third album. And you know, I you know, a lot of the songs are written that it's nearly ready to go, but there is no deadline. You know, nobody's out there waiting for me to release an album. But for me, it's like I want to create something and move on, and then create something else, and just do it, because the buzz that I get from writing a song, from recording it to releasing it, it's, you know, it's that creative buzz is amazing. Like, and so you're always chasing having more of that. So I would just say my advice would be to just play as much, write as much as possible, and almost not think about the end goal. Just do it. Do it for the love of doing it.
Brilliant. And the final question, is there anything that you'd like to talk about that we haven't touched on?
I don't think so. I think I've talked for a lot longer than I thought I would.
I told you time goes really quick.
Yeah, you're going to have to get an editor in, certainly for cutting this down. But no, I think I've covered my musical career so far. So
brilliant. We might have you back then for the third, when you have the third album out.
Yeah, that might be about 10 years, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Thanks a million,
Thanks,
Pete.
Lawrence.
Thank you.